The massive screen in Earth's Defense Command Center lit up with a series of red alerts. Admiral James Miller stood from his chair, his eyes fixed on the incoming data. After 30 years of service, this was the moment he had trained for. "Contact confirmed, sir," reported Lieutenant Tom Wilson from his station. "Object approaching from beyond Neptune's orbit. It's not one of ours." Admiral Miller nodded calmly. "Show me." The main screen switched to a real-time feed from Earth's long-range sensors. A ship, clearly not of human design, moved through space with a grace that seemed almost impossible. Its silver hull reflected the distant sunlight, creating patterns that no human engineer would have designed. "Send the alert to all stations," Miller ordered. "But keep it quiet. We don't want to show our hand too early." Across the solar system, hidden sensors and defense platforms silently tracked the alien vessel. Humanity had prepared for this day for decades, ever since they had found the crashed alien ship in the Arctic. The world's governments had kept it secret, working together to reverse engineer the technology and build defenses that no one outside Earth knew about. The alien ship continued its approach, completely unaware that it had already triggered 50 different tracking systems. Its crew probably thought they were approaching a primitive world that barely had satellites. They couldn't have known about the quantum radar arrays hidden on Mars, or the stealth platforms orbiting Jupiter. "They're scanning us, sir," Wilson reported. "Standard electromagnetic sweeps, nothing advanced." Miller allowed himself a small smile. The aliens were using technology that Earth had surpassed 5 years ago. Their scans would show exactly what humanity wanted them to see: a planet just beginning to explore space, with primitive rockets and basic satellites. "Let them look," Miller said. "Keep our advanced tech dark." "What's their classification?" "They're marking us as a Class 3 civilization, sir. Their logs suggest they consider us pre-space flight capable." The room filled with quiet chuckles. Earth had mastered faster-than-light travel 2 years ago, but these aliens would only see the old chemical rockets they still used for public space missions. The alien ship moved closer, passing Jupiter's orbit. It was larger than any human ship, nearly a kilometer long, but the Admiral knew size wasn't everything. Hidden in Earth's shipyards were vessels that could outmaneuver and outfight anything this size. "Message from the United Council, sir," announced Communications Officer Lisa Brown. "Director Reed wants to know if we should make contact." Miller shook his head. "Tell them to wait. Let's see what our visitors do first." Hours passed as the alien ship made its way through the inner solar system. More vessels appeared behind it, dropping out of faster-than-light travel. A small fleet was forming, probably meant to intimidate Earth when first contact was made. "Sir," Wilson called out, his voice tight with excitement. "They're preparing a transmission. Looks like they're going to announce themselves." "Right on schedule," Miller muttered. "Alert the Council. Tell all stations to maintain current status. Remember, we're just simple humans who've barely reached our moon." The alien transmission arrived exactly as their analysts had predicted it would. The message was simple. They represented the Galactic Empire. They had discovered Earth, and they were coming to welcome humanity into their civilization. What they didn't say, but what everyone in the command center knew, was that welcome meant conquer. The Empire had done this hundreds of times before, finding worlds that couldn't defend themselves and adding them to their territory. But Earth was different. When the Empire's ships finally reached orbit, they would find out just how different. Humanity had spent 70 years preparing for this moment, ever since that first crashed ship had shown them they weren't alone. "Send the acknowledgement," Miller ordered. "Keep it simple. Make it look like we're excited and a little scared." As he watched the alien fleet approach, Admiral Miller thought about all the hidden weapons and ships just waiting for his command. The Empire thought they were about to conquer another primitive world. They were about to learn a very important lesson about judging by appearances. The Imperial Ambassador's ship descended through Earth's atmosphere with a display of lights and power that would have impressed most primitive worlds. Lord Drake stood at the command center, watching as they approached the meeting location in Geneva. He smiled at the sight of the simple buildings below. This would be an easy conquest. What he didn't notice were the quantum sensors scanning his ship, recording every detail of its supposedly advanced technology. The landing area had been prepared according to Imperial protocols, a large open space with a delegation waiting at a safe distance. Director Thomas Reed of the United Earth Council stood at the front of the group, wearing a simple black suit that hid its advanced protective capabilities. "Remember," Reed whispered to his team, "we act impressed but not afraid." The Imperial ship landed with a theatrical flourish of engine bursts. A ramp extended, and out walked Lord Drake, followed by his guards in shining armor. He was tall, with blue-tinted skin that sparkled in Earth's sunlight, wearing robes that probably cost more than most Earth cars. "People of Earth," his voice boomed through a translator, "I bring greetings from the Galactic Empire." Director Reed stepped forward, playing his role perfectly. "We are honored by your presence," he said, bowing slightly. "Earth welcomes you." The meeting was moved inside the United Council building. If Lord Drake noticed that the architecture was more advanced than Earth's supposed technology level would allow, he didn't show it. He was too busy preparing his rehearsed speech. "The Galactic Empire," Drake announced to the assembled council members, "spans 10,000 worlds. We bring peace, prosperity, and advancement to all civilizations we encounter." He activated a holographic display, showing the Empire's territory. "We offer you the opportunity to join our great society." Reed exchanged glances with Admiral Miller, who sat quietly in the corner. They had seen this same speech in the records from the crashed ship they'd found. The Empire hadn't changed its approach in over 100 years. And what would joining the Empire mean for Earth? Reed asked innocently. Drake smiled. "You would receive access to Imperial technology, trade routes, and protection. In return, you would simply need to accept Imperial governance and provide resources for the greater good of the Empire." "Resources?" Reed prompted. "Your world has abundant minerals and a large population of potential workers," Drake said smoothly. "The Empire would put these to good use." The council members maintained their poker faces, but internally they were amused. The Empire thought Earth was defenseless, ready to be stripped of its resources and turned into another mining colony. "And if we decline?" Reed asked. Drake's smile faded slightly. "The Empire's invitation is mandatory. For your own protection, of course. There are many dangerous forces in the galaxy." "I see," Reed said. He opened a simple folder on the table. "Paper to maintain appearances." "And these dangerous forces, would they include the rebellion on Proxima Centauri?" Drake's smile vanished completely. "How do you know about that?" "Oh, we hear things," Reed said casually. "Just like we've heard about the Empire's mining operations on Mars." "There are no Imperial operations on Mars." Drake snapped. "We only just discovered your system." Reed smiled for the first time. "Exactly. Which means those ships we destroyed last month weren't yours." "Interesting." The color drained from Drake's face as he realized this meeting wasn't going according to plan. These primitives weren't acting like primitives at all. "Perhaps," Reed continued, "we should show you something." He pressed a button on the table, a simple metal button that looked like it might control the room's lights. Instead, the entire wall became transparent, revealing a view of Earth's orbit. And there, floating in space, were dozens of ships that definitely weren't Imperial design. Ships that hadn't been there when Drake's fleet arrived. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador," Reed said pleasantly. "Now shall we discuss the real terms of our relationship with the Empire?" Drake stared at the ships, his mind racing. This wasn't possible. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to go. These humans weren't following the script at all. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a very uncomfortable thought began to form. Perhaps the Empire wasn't as advanced as they'd always believed. Lord Drake stood at the window of his ship, watching Earth's moon with growing unease. Something was wrong. His sensors were picking up strange energy readings, but they couldn't identify the source. "My lord," his science officer called out, "we're detecting movement from the lunar surface." The moon's gray surface suddenly split open. What had looked like crater rims were actually massive doors, revealing the darkness beneath. From these openings, ships began to emerge. Earth ships. Not the primitive rockets the Empire had observed, but sleek vessels of war. Admiral Miller watched from the bridge of the EDF Thunder, Earth's flagship, as the lunar fleet revealed itself. "Status report," he ordered. "All ships reporting ready, sir," Commander West replied. "Mars fleet is in position. Jupiter defense grid is online." Miller nodded. "Send the message to all Imperial vessels." Across the solar system, Earth's hidden forces activated. Stealth fields dropped, revealing hundreds of defense platforms. The gas clouds around Jupiter shimmered as massive weapon arrays emerged. On Mars, ground-based cannons rose from the red sand. Lord Drake received the transmission on his command screen. It was a simple message. "The Empire is not welcome here." "Impossible," Drake muttered. "They're just primitives. This must be some trick." He turned to his tactical officer. "Scan those ships. They can't be real." The scans came back showing technology that shouldn't exist on a Class 3 world. Quantum drives, plasma weapons, and shield systems that matched or exceeded Imperial standards. On the Thunder, Miller watched the Imperial ships scramble to battle positions. "They still think they can fight," he said to Commander West. "Let's show them why that's a bad idea." "Sir," West replied with a smile, "which ship should we disable first?" Miller pointed to a large cruiser near the edge of the fleet. "That one. Minimal damage. We just want to make a point." The Thunder moved with impossible grace for a ship its size. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Imperial sensors could barely track it. Lord Drake watched in horror as the Earth vessel approached his fleet. "Open fire," he ordered. Imperial weapons blazed across space and passed right through where the Thunder had been. The Earth ship had moved faster than their targeting systems could adjust. "Quantum displacement drive," Miller explained to his bridge crew, though they already knew. "Makes our ships look like they're where they were half a second ago." The Thunder fired a single shot. A pulse of blue energy struck the Imperial cruiser's engine section. All lights on the massive ship went dark. "Target disabled," West reported. "Their power grid is offline, but life support is stable." More Earth ships appeared, emerging from hidden positions around the solar system. Some seemed to materialize out of nowhere as their stealth systems deactivated. Others rose from gas-giant atmospheres where they had been hiding. Drake's communications officer spoke up nervously. "My lord, we're receiving reports from the outer system. Earth forces have surrounded our reinforcement fleet. They were waiting for them." "How long?" Drake demanded. "How long have they been preparing for this?" The answer came in another transmission from Earth. Director Reed's voice was calm but firm. "Since your last ship crashed here in 1947. Did you really think we wouldn't study it, wouldn't learn from it, wouldn't prepare?" Miller stood on his bridge, watching the Imperial ships hanging motionless in space. The Empire had come expecting to find helpless primitives. Instead, they had found humanity at its finest, prepared, united, and unwilling to bow to any foreign power. "Send word to all Earth forces," Miller ordered. "Operation Shadow Shield is complete. The solar system is secured." As alerts spread across the Imperial fleet and panic began to set in, Miller allowed himself a small smile. The Empire was about to learn that humanity had outgrown its cradle long ago, and they had no intention of becoming anyone's subjects. Lord Drake paced in his command room, his blue skin now pale with anger and fear. The Empire had never faced such resistance from a supposedly primitive world. He had to do something to regain control of the situation. "Prepare the main cannon," he ordered his weapons officer. "We'll show them what real Imperial power looks like." On the EDF Thunder, Admiral Miller watched the energy readings from the Imperial flagship spike. "They're going to try to scare us," he said to Commander West. "Typical Imperial playbook. When diplomacy fails, try intimidation." "Should we stop them?" West asked, her hand hovering over the weapon's control. Miller shook his head. "Let them try. It's time they learned about our shield technology." The Imperial flagship's main cannon began to glow with a bright green energy. It was their most powerful weapon, capable of destroying small moons. Drake had chosen an empty part of the Pacific Ocean as his target. A warning shot to bring Earth to its knees. "Director Reed is calling," West reported. Reed's face appeared on the main screen, calm as ever. "They're going to shoot at our ocean, aren't they?" "Right on schedule," Miller replied. "Shield Grid Alpha is ready, activated and waiting. The cleanup crews are standing by, though I doubt we'll need them." The Imperial weapon fired. A massive beam of green energy shot toward Earth, lighting up space like a new sun. Lord Drake watched with satisfaction. No primitive world could withstand such power. But Earth was far from primitive. As the beam approached the atmosphere, the sky began to shimmer. A web of blue energy appeared, spreading across the planet like a giant net. The Imperial blast struck the shield and stopped. "Impossible," Drake shouted, watching his sensors. "Nothing can stop a full power shot." The shield wasn't just stopping the beam, it was absorbing it. The web of energy grew brighter, pulsing with the stolen power. "Shield capacity at 180% and rising," reported Earth's defense control. "Converting excess energy to power grid now." Miller smiled. "Send our thanks to the Empire for the free power donation. That should run New York's electricity for a month." Lord Drake stared at his screens in disbelief. Not only had Earth stopped their most powerful weapon, but they had also turned it into an energy source. His tactical officer's voice shook as he delivered more bad news. "My lord, firing the cannon drained our main power. We're vulnerable. Would you like a demonstration of our weapons now?" Miller's voice came through clear on the Imperial command channel. He hadn't even bothered to encrypt the transmission. Before Drake could respond, a small Earth ship, hardly bigger than a shuttle, appeared next to one of his massive cruisers. A pulse of blue light shot out, and the cruiser's weapons system simply disappeared, transformed into harmless atoms. "Quantum phase cannon," Miller explained casually. "Breaks down matter at the atomic level. Very precise. We could have aimed at your life support systems, but we're not monsters." Drake watched as two more of his ships were systematically disarmed. The Earth vessels moved with impossible speed, their weapons unlike anything the Empire had seen in 1,000 years of space combat. Perhaps, Reed's voice joined the channel, the Empire would like to reconsider its position on Earth's independence. In his command room, Drake slumped into his chair. The Empire had ruled the galaxy through fear and superior technology for centuries. But now they had found something they'd never expected. A young race that had surpassed them. "Send the message," Drake whispered to his communications officer. "Tell the Imperial Senate. Tell them Earth is not to be conquered. They are not primitive. They are not weak." He paused, looking at his disabled fleet. "They are beyond us." Director Reed stood in the United Council chamber, looking at the assembled leaders of Earth. The room was quiet, but there was a sense of pride in the air. After decades of preparation, humanity was finally ready to step onto the galactic stage, on their own terms. "The time has come," Reed announced, "to present our demands to the Empire." On the main screen, Lord Drake's face showed a mix of fear and disbelief. His mighty fleet hung powerless in Earth's orbit, surrounded by ships that shouldn't exist. "Demands." Drake tried to sound confident, but his voice shook slightly. "The Empire does not take demands from. The Empire," Admiral Miller cut in, "is not in a position to refuse." He pressed a button, showing Drake a live feed of the Imperial reinforcement fleet. Earth ships had completely surrounded them near Jupiter's orbit. Reed cleared his throat. First, the Empire will immediately recognize Earth as a sovereign spacefaring civilization, with all rights and privileges that status includes. Drake started to protest, but Reed continued as if he hadn't heard. Second, the Empire will sign a non-interference agreement. No Imperial ships will enter our solar system without explicit permission. The same courtesy will be extended to other independent worlds. The Imperial ambassador's face had turned a lighter shade of blue. These humans weren't just resisting. They were dictating terms to the Empire itself. Third, Reed went on, Earth will establish free trade relations with any worlds we choose, Imperial or otherwise. Any attempt to block or interfere with these trade routes will be considered an act of war. In the corner of the room, Commander West watched the sensor readings. "Sir," she whispered to Miller, "the Second Imperial Fleet is starting to move." Miller nodded. "Right on schedule." They never learn. The Imperial reinforcements had decided to make their move. Hundreds of ships began advancing toward Earth, their weapons charging. They thought their numbers would overwhelm Earth's defenses. They were wrong. "Admiral," Reed said calmly, "please demonstrate our system-wide defense grid." Miller pressed a series of commands on his tablet. Across the solar system, hidden platforms activated. Quantum energy fields sprang to life between planets, creating a web of defensive barriers. The Imperial fleet suddenly stopped, their engines dying. "A simple quantum field," Miller explained to the shocked Drake. "It disrupts any technology more advanced than what we choose to allow. Right now, your ships have about as much power as a child's toy." Drake watched in horror as his mighty reinforcement fleet drifted helplessly in space. Earth ships moved among them, systematically disabling weapons and dry systems. Fourth, Reed continued as if nothing had happened. The Empire will acknowledge that its policy of forced integration is no longer acceptable. Earth will lead the formation of a new association of independent worlds. The Empire will never agree to this. Drake finally found his voice. Reed smiled. "They already have." He gestured to another screen, showing live feeds from across the galaxy. News of Earth's resistance was spreading. Other worlds were watching, learning that the Empire wasn't invincible. "Your Senate is meeting right now," Reed explained. "They're realizing that an empire that can't defeat a primitive world might not be able to control its other territories either. Change is coming, Ambassador. You can be part of it, or you can be remembered as the one who lost the Empire its power." Miller watched Drake's face as the truth sank in. The Empire hadn't just failed to conquer Earth. They had accidentally sparked a revolution that would change the galaxy forever. "Your choice, Ambassador," Reed said quietly. "But remember, Earth's defenses don't just protect our world. They can reach anywhere in our solar system, and soon we'll be able to extend that protection to any world that asks for it." Drake looked at his powerless ships, at the spreading news of Earth's victory, and at the confident faces of humanity's leaders. For the first time in Imperial history, they would have to accept terms from another world. The galaxy would never be the same. The Imperial Senate chamber was in chaos. Thousands of representatives from across the galaxy argued as news of Earth's resistance spread through every world. The massive circular room, usually a place of quiet deals and careful words, now echoed with shouts and demands. "How could a single world defeat our best fleet?" One senator shouted. "If Earth could do it, what's stopping others?" Another added. In the center of the chamber, the Imperial High Council tried to maintain order. They had ruled through power and fear for centuries. Now, that power was slipping away. On Earth, Director Reed watched the Senate broadcast with Admiral Miller and Commander West. The room was quiet as they observed the Empire's political system falling into disorder. "News from the outer colonies, sir," West reported, checking her tablet. 3 more worlds have declared independence in the last hour. They're requesting Earth's protection." Miller nodded. "Just like we predicted. The Empire's control was already weak. They just needed someone to show them it could be broken." The main screen showed more reports from across the galaxy. Videos of Earth ships defeating the Imperial fleet had gone viral on every world. People were celebrating in the streets, waving their own flags instead of Imperial banners. Lord Drake's ship is requesting permission to leave orbit, an officer announced. Granted, Reed said. But first, make sure he has a copy of all our broadcasts. Let him show the Senate exactly what happened here. The Imperial ambassador's ship departed Earth, its once proud crew silent and shocked. They had come to conquer a primitive world. They were leaving as messengers of their own defeat. In the Imperial capital, the Senate's arguments grew louder. Centuries of buried anger and resentment were bursting to the surface. Colonies that had been stripped of resources, worlds that had lost their culture to Imperial rule, all of them saw Earth's victory as a sign. The Earth delegation has arrived at the capital, West announced. Reed straightened his tie. Time for the next phase. Admiral, is our demonstration ready? Miller pulled up a hologram of Earth's latest technology. Ready and waiting. The Senate won't believe what we can do. The Earth delegation walked into the Imperial Senate led by Thomas Reed. The room fell silent. These humans, these supposed primitives who had humbled the Imperial fleet, stood tall and confident. Senators of the galaxy, Reed's voice carried through the chamber. We come not as conquerors, but as liberators. He activated a device on his wrist. Above the Senate, a massive hologram appeared showing Earth's defensive technology. The quantum shields, the phase weapons, the stealth systems, all of it far beyond what the Empire had achieved. For too long, the Empire has ruled through fear and force, Reed continued. They called themselves advanced, but they stopped advancing centuries ago. They grew comfortable, stopped innovating, forgot what it means to strive and grow. Miller watched from Earth as Reed addressed the Senate. On his screens, more reports of independence declarations flooded in. The Empire's grip on power was crumbling by the minute. Earth offers a different path, Reed told the silent Senate. We will share our technology with any world that chooses freedom. We will help you defend yourselves, build your own ships, create your own future. The Senate chamber erupted again, but this time with excitement instead of fear. Representatives rushed forward, asking to sign treaties with Earth, begging for technology sharing agreements. It's really happening, West said quietly, watching the scene. The Empire is falling. Miller smiled. Not falling, Commander, changing, and humanity will help guide that change. Across the galaxy, people watched their screens as history unfolded. The mighty empire that had ruled for 1,000 years was being transformed, not by war or violence, but by the example of one world that dared to say no. And in the hearts of countless beings on countless worlds, hope began to grow. 1 year after Earth's stand against the Empire, the solar system had become the center of a new galactic age. Ships from hundreds of worlds moved freely through space, their designs as varied as the cultures that built them. Earth's orbital stations buzzed with activity as representatives from former imperial worlds came to learn, trade, and build alliances. Admiral Miller stood at his favorite window in the new Galactic Cooperation Center, built on the moon's surface. Below him, ships from 20 different worlds practiced formation flying using Earth's quantum drive technology. Admiral, Commander West called from behind him. The first graduation ceremony is about to begin. Miller smiled. In the large hangar bay, crews from formerly oppressed worlds stood in neat rows. They had spent 6 months learning Earth's advanced technology, and today they would return to their homes as equals, not subjects. Who would have thought? Miller said as they walked to the ceremony. That saying no to the Empire would lead to all this. The hangar was filled with ships of all sizes and designs. Each world had taken Earth's basic technology and added their own unique touches. Some were beautiful, others practical, but all of them were free from Imperial control. Director Reed stood at the podium, looking out at the gathered crews. Behind him, through the hangar's force field, Earth hummed like a blue jewel in space. 1 year ago, Reed began, humanity revealed itself to the galaxy, not as conquerors, like the Empire, but as friends and teachers. In the audience, Lord Drake sat quietly. He had become Earth's unofficial ambassador to the former Empire, helping to guide the transition to the new galactic order. The fear in his eyes had been replaced by something like respect. Today, Reed continued, you return to your worlds with more than just new technology. You return with the knowledge that no power has the right to rule over others, that innovation and cooperation are stronger than force and fear. On screens around the hangar, feeds showed celebrations on dozens of worlds. The Free Worlds Alliance, as it had come to be known, now included over 300 planets. Each one had signed Earth's Charter of Independence, promising to respect the rights of all civilizations to develop in their own way. The Empire thought age meant wisdom, Reed said. They forgot that youth brings energy, creativity, and the courage to try new things. They called us primitive because we were young, never realizing that youth was our greatest strength. Commander West checked her tablet and smiled. Another 30 worlds had applied to join the Alliance this morning. Earth's prediction had been right. Once people saw that freedom was possible, they would choose it for themselves. Look around you. Reed gestured to the gathered crews. Every ship in this hangar is different. Every world has taken what we shared and made it their own. This is the true strength of freedom, the power to choose your own path. The Empire still existed, but it had changed. Without its military might, it had been forced to become a trade alliance, competing with other worlds instead of controlling them. Some said it was stronger now than it had ever been under the old system. As the ceremony ended, Miller watched the graduates return to their ships. Each vessel lit up with newly installed quantum drives, their crews proud and confident. This was what Earth had fought for, not just their own independence, but the right of every world to stand on its own. Message from the Council. Sir, West said, checking her communications. They've approved the expansion of the training program. We'll be receiving students from 1,000 worlds next year. Miller nodded, watching the ships prepare for departure. Send them a response. Tell them humanity is ready. We've waited centuries to join the galactic community. Now we'll help build one worth being part of. The ships lifted off one by one, their new quantum drives humming with power. They rose into space carrying Earth's greatest gift, not the technology itself, but the knowledge that even the youngest civilization could change the galaxy if it had the courage to stand up and say no to tyranny. As the last ship disappeared into quantum space, Miller smiled. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as servants or subjects, but as teachers, friends, and protectors of freedom throughout the galaxy. The age of the Empire was over. The age of Earth had begun.